Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi there, another busy one. I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news, a daily briefing on stand-up comedy, comedians, and the comedy industry. David Letterman did a big piece in the New York Times with friend of the show, Jason Zinneman. Nice get by Jay-Z. The subheader, David Letterman no longer feels a sense of ownership, but the program's former host has harsh words for the network. The topic, Stephen Colbert's show coming to an end. By the way, Colbert did a ton of press. Now, I'm holding on to all that for Colbert Week because we've got the Netflix festival to talk about this week. But you know me and Dave. If Dave drops something, I'm going to jump in on it. Jason asked Dave, hey, what were your first thoughts when you found out Late Show was ending? David Letterman said, disbelief. Then it seemed like a botched holdup when we got the facts about the Ellison family. I took great delight in referring to the principal as the Ellison twins. I was later corrected and told it's just one guy. I didn't care, and I still refer to him as twins. There's also the old man Larry. Is it in fact Larry? Jason said yes. Letterman, as best I understand it, he invented the slinky, and the Ellison twins are willy-nilly spending the old man's money. So that was what ran through my head. Then I wondered, what the hell have they done to Stephen Colbert? And I would say, farther down the list is your point. Wait a minute, this used to be my show. It's like driving by your old neighborhood and realizing that where you used to live, they're putting up an adult bookstore. Dave said, time has separated me from the genealogy of the show. On the other hand, if there's outrage to be directed at management, either real or imagined, I'm all in. Let's go. Does Dave believe they canceled The Late Show over financial reasons? Dave said, they don't share the books with me. All of television seems to have been nicked by digital communication and streaming platforms and on and on. TV may not be the money machine it once was. On the other hand, what about the humanity for Stephen and the humanity of people who love him and the humanity for people who still enjoy that 11:30 respite? He was dumped because the people who are selling the network to Skydance said, oh no, there's not going to be any trouble with that guy. We're going to take care of the show. We're just going to throw it into the deal. When will the ink on the check dry? I'm just going to go on record as saying they're lying. This is David Letterman speaking. Let me just add one other thing, Jason. They're lying weasels. I love that the article said, asked to comment, a spokesperson for CBS said, unequivocally a financial decision. They apparently did not respond to the weasel comment, or the Times chose not to print their response to the weasel comment. The topic switched to Byron Allen's Comics Unleashed, David Letterman told the Times. I was recently driving around on an interstate, and all I would see were these rental places where you could store your stuff, and I just thought, these didn't used to exist. You used to have to be responsible for your own stuff, but now everywhere you look, there's warehouses and rental facilities, and I think that's not a bad parallel for what's happening in network television. We now have this, but we're just going to lease it to Byron Allen, and he'll make pennies on every dollar or whatever he's making. But you know, everything changes in life, as people of a certain age understand, both good and bad. He's been more wildly successful than any 100 of us. I periodically talk to him, and neither he nor I understand how he became a billionaire. God bless him. To hell with CBS, to hell with Skydance, to hell with the Winslow twins, or whoever the hell these guys are. But Byron, he'll still be providing comedy in that time period. I think that's a valuable bit of resolution here. Hold on to a little bit more of that for next week. Normally, this would be your top story. Louis C.K. gets standing ovation at raunchy comeback show during Netflix Comedy Festival. This from The Hollywood Reporter. The not-so-canceled Louis C.K. took the stage in Los Angeles on Tuesday night. By the way, if you keep noticing I keep saying Los Angeles, that's a Lettermanism that I am absolutely appropriating. The Hollywood Reporter says the Hollywood Bowl was 75% full, mostly of male fans in their 20s and 30s. Who came to life when Louis C.K. started after 4 opening acts. Louis apparently never addressed the misconduct allegations. Are they allegations? Quoting the Hollywood Reporter, the women alleged that he masturbated in front of them or on the phone with him. C.K. later admitted to the behavior, unquote. So that's not an allegation if he admitted to it, right? Not really the point. Maybe. But they're not allegations if he said I did it. John, we're alleging that you hosted Daily Comedy News today. CK opened up about his dating life, revealing he has a girlfriend and believes in dating women his own age. The quote from CK is, if you date young women, there's pressure sexually, but with women my age, I'm like, do you want to, do stuff? She's like, nah. And I'm like, yeah, good. And if you do, there's no condoms. He later mused, I think it's crazy that it's legal for me to date an 18-year-old. That's effed up. That's 40 years difference. You shouldn't have sex with somebody if the years between you would be the age of a woman who can't get pregnant naturally. CK got a standing ovation at the end of the set. He said, that was my last show, last time telling those jokes, and I'm really happy I got to tell them to you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you to Netflix. I really appreciate the gig. I did see on Threads one of the comedian whose name gets dragged into the CK news cycle said, please stop asking her about it. So I'm not going to say her name, nor am I going to ask her about it. But I did feel bad for her. She said the press keeps reaching out to her. She has me blocked on Twitter for some reason. I think I must have used her name in a headline. I'm not blocked by her on Threads. Whatever. Decider's headline, what Louis C.K.'s Netflix is a joke comeback says about the sad state of our culture in 2026. Sean McCarthy writes, Louis C.K. didn't receive consent from many of the women he exposed himself to over the years, and yet Netflix eagerly consented not only to showcase the comedian at the Hollywood Bowl, but also to prevent his forthcoming ridiculous special on the streaming platform. Is anyone actually surprised by this turn of events in 2026? Before you come at me, please know that my disappointment at this point is no longer so much at Louis C.K. as it is with the system. For it's the system that continues to fail us even more now than a comedy hero may have failed you or me in the recent past. Skipping down, the media has also failed us, whether by negligence or laziness. In reports of his new Netflix deal and Hollywood Bowl performance, Variety claims he, quote, mostly disappeared from the public eye for a few years before returning, unquote, while the Hollywood Reporter said his new Netflix deal, quote, appears to mark a turning point for the comedian, who had been exiled from many mainstream comedy spaces, unquote. Decider writes, for Netflix, as with so many others in our capitalist society, there's no moral code, only a look at the financial bottom line, and only then in terms of how decisions impact the C-suite and the shareholders, not the subscribers, although the press releases will tout how subscribers vote with their views. And if Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais can generate such high ratings while trolling us by tracking in transphobia, then why should they leave the potential profits of a new Louis C.K. special off the platform? But again, it's not just about C.K. Chris D'Elia remains disgraced following revelations of his improprieties with underage fans, writes Decider, and yet several of his specials are back on Netflix now. Tucker Carlson started a book imprint and promptly gave a deal to Russell Brand. Skipping ahead, C.K. couldn't apologize last year, but he could promote his novel with Bill Maher and bank riches from the Saudi royal family by performing at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and he could write this new hour of material that he's ending his tour with in Hollywood and filming for Netflix. Might the real amends come then, or thereafter? Skipping ahead again, what matters now and still is whether or not he can make an honest amends to the people he's directly harmed. Whether or not they accept his efforts is beside the point for us and for him. All the noise around it is just ridiculous. Dave Chappelle brought Kanye West on stage. A source tells TMZ this happened at the Comedy Store. Kanye did not perform, but made a quick appearance at the end of the night. Dave had already done a full set. He brought Kanye out and told the crowd, Kanye West has lost more money than I've ever made. TMZ says the crowd cheered Kanye loudly. He got a full standing ovation, and as he joined Dave, the lineup that night was Shane Gillis, Chris Rock, and Louis C.K. That's not a bad show there, Dave Chappelle, at a club. The Roast of Kevin Hart is Sunday night. Now, I was on the Netflix site on, Wednesday morning. Even the Netflix site had no information about who's on. And I don't mean like there was an absence of information. They even had the phrase like, stay tuned, we'll let you know. Here, I should check that. Hold on. Okay, it is 10:20 on Wednesday, and this page was updated on May 5th, 16 hours ago, says the timestamp. And there's some FAQs. I'm on netflix.com/tudum/features/the-roast- of Kevin Hart live on Netflix. The FAQs, what time is the Roast of Kevin Hart? The Roast of Kevin Hart streams live globally on Netflix on Sunday, May 10th at 5 West, 8 East. What's the lineup for the Roast of Kevin Hart? Now, this is Netflix's site. So far, the only confirmed stars to appear are Hart and Gillis, but be sure to check back on Tudum for updates as the event gets closer. That's a little weird, right? That we don't know who's performing? I was catching up on Funny AF. I didn't watch any of the live events yet because I'm kind of a week behind, and I'm actually enjoying it. As a comedy competition, it's the good version of it, so I didn't want to skip ahead. I did see some people saying during the semifinals on Monday night that Chris Rock appeared not into it at all. Speaking of Kevin Hart, TMZ acquired video of The Rock being stopped by the police for having a tinted window on his car. The paparazzi caught Kevin Hart walking by Miami's Carbone Beach Club. Kevin Hart was asked if he was responsible for calling the cops on The Rock. Kevin Hart said, was I the one that called the cops on The Rock? No, but I would. I effing would, because he's a piece of crap. That's why. We'll circle back to Netflix in a bit. Some other stuff in the news. Zach Galifianakis has criticized comedian podcasters who have interviewed Donald Trump without challenging Donald Trump. We are reminded that Donald Trump has appeared on podcasts including The Joe Rogan Experience, Andrew Schultz, Theo Vaughn. Zach told Conan O'Brien, all the podcasters that have had the president on now, they don't do the court gesture. They don't do it. They suck up to him. That's not the job of a comedian. You are to challenge. You are to make uncomfortable. You're not to sit there and fake laugh. That is not the job of the court jester, period. Meanwhile, Andrew Schultz and Charlamagne the God not seeing eye to eye. This happened on the Brilliant Idiots podcast. Charlamagne said the brutality of Trump's illegal immigration crackdown could be a motivating factor for someone wanting to do, see, I don't need a visit from men in sunglasses, to do something really bad to a famous person who used to host a game show on NBC. Schultz said, "Are you saying it was justified because of that?" Charlamagne said, No. Charlamagne said, "We have to deal with the reality that some of Trump's policies have hurt people so much that some folks are willing to risk it all." Schultz said, "Well, now you're justifying it." Charlamagne, "I'm not justifying it, it's just a reality you have to deal with. I think it would be remiss not to take a step back and not just have conversations about violent rhetoric. Let's just talk about violent policies that people have been watching over the last year and a half. I know a lot of people have been hurt by those policies, and some of those people are willing to risk it all. Because to your point earlier, they have nothing to lose." Andrew Schultz, who on June 23rd, 2025, got a headline from the New York Times where they wrote, "Andrew Schultz, podcast bro, might be America's foremost political journalist." I have to keep looking back at this to make sure that this is not The Onion. This is a real thing that the New York Times printed somehow. Anyway, the man who might be America's foremost political journalist said, sure, but I guess what I'm saying is it's wrong to do that. Charlamagne said, "I'm not saying it's right. We have to deal with the reality." The possible America's foremost political journalist said, "But you and I both know from knowing people that are crazy that it actually doesn't take that much to get actual crazy people to do things." As you can hear, it is a busy day. I was surprised right before I sat down, just for laughs, sent out an email blast. And you know, I love the JFL guys, but they announced a whole bunch of new shows. And I was like, why would you do that this week? Wait till next week, because the Netflix is going to dominate you. I mean, you're up against all these things, plus the whole Colbert media tour. I thought it was an oddly timed email. I don't have time for it today. We'll get to it on Monday. Some things for you to listen to. Jimmy Carr is the guest on Josh Zepp's podcast, SZEPS. That's a great podcast that I like listening to. It's linked to in my Substack. That's a free Substack I write once a week. A link in the show notes, but it's McDpod on Substack. Also, Robert Smigel is on the Late Nighter podcast. They also did a really good roundtable episode about the end of Colbert. But Smigel's really good. There was a comment in the Facebook group. I know who wrote the comment, but I want to get the person in trouble with Smigel. But the thought was that Smigel seemed a little not really into the conversation early on and then warmed up. And I kind of caught the same thing. It just seemed like Smigel didn't want to talk about some things, but then got into it. It's a very good listen. Dave Chappelle performs the first of his 3 shows at the Hollywood Palladium tonight as part of the Netflix festival. Deadline is excited to see Mo Amer. He's at the Orpheum at 7 p.m. Mo is now a contributor on The Daily Show. The LA Times asked Will Smith, not that guy, the one from the LA Dodgers that doesn't slap people. They asked that Will Smith about Dodgers comedy night. Who is the funniest player on the Dodgers? The clubhouse consensus is Kiki Hernandez. Dodgers Comedy Night is a fundraiser for the Catching Hope Foundation, launched by Will Smith, not that one, the other one, and his wife, not that one, the other one, to equip at-risk youth with skills and leadership and self-sufficiency. Boy, if anybody had a sense of humor, Chris Rock should show up and Will Smith should slap him. Will Smith, not that one, the other one, said, "I was definitely a little anxious because you have to get up there and give a little speech, which I enjoy now." This is not the first Dodgers Comedy Night. It kind of took me back to my high school days. We have to give a speech in front of the whole school. It was a little worrisome, but it was fine. It was fun once I got up there. Will Smith, not that one, the other one, says, "I'm not saying too many jokes, maybe one." Dodgers manager Dave Roberts compared Will Smith, not that one, the other one, to John Lovitz, who said John Lovitz is a comedian and he has that dry humor. So there you go. Will has that dry humor. Time Out is excited to go see The Legend of Crystal Shell. Crystal Shell is Kristen Schaal. Kristen is at Dynasty Typewriter tonight, 8 o'clock. You may know her as the voice of Louise on Bob's Burgers. You know my thoughts on that hoax. The LA Times is excited to see Nate Jackson at the Laugh Factory at 10 p.m. They write, though plenty of comics view crowd work as another part of the job, Nate Jackson has made it the springboard to a career. If you feel like being made into a human s'more, go ahead and make sure you're somewhere in his line of vision when he gets on stage at the Laugh Factory. They're also excited to go see the Are You Garbage Guys? They're at the Belasco at 7 o'clock, and Jay Young Summers is at Pacific Electric at 7. They say dark humor means something different to a woman who narrowly escaped being thrown in the dumpster as a baby, a survivor of China's one-child policy in the 90s before coming to America. Jay Young Summers specializes in jokes too brutal for the average American psyche, delivered with sweetness that makes the punchlines even more shocking. Oh yeah, big one tonight, Night of Too Many Stars, Smigel and Friends, Hollywood Bowl, 7:30. Guests include Bill Burr, back from the Riyadh Comedy Festival, Nikki Glazer, She Hates Press, Conan O'Brien, Steve Carell, Ron Funches, Tiffany Haddish, Jimmy Kimmel, Leanne Morgan, John Mulaney, Kevin Nealon, Bob Odenkirk, Matt Rife, dramatic actor Adam Sandler, Comedy Survivor winner Sarah Silverman, Ali Wong, Noah Wiley, famous comedian, and many more. If that doesn't float your boat, big night tonight. Kill Tony at the Intuit Dome, 7 o'clock. And that's just what other people spotlighted. Let me click on the schedule proper here and see what else is going on. Still mad about the Flight of the Conchords adding 3 shows. I didn't throw them into Google today. Let's see if there's any. Flight of the Conchords. This is how the show gets put together. I type as I speak to you. Nope, nothing yet. Not even a mention that they added all the shows. Okay. Thursday, May 7th. Let's see what I haven't mentioned. Wanda Sykes is at the Dolby at 7. 9:45, Saving Los Angeles with Tim Dillon and the cast of Selling Sunset and Selling the OC. That's at the Wiltord. I like Tim Dillon, but that feels like a little much. At the United Theater on Broadway at 9:45, Sam Morril, Jordan Jensen, Joe List, and Rachel Feinstein. That's a pretty good show. If you're just into like comedy, you don't need a like super all-star show. At the Montalban, David Letterman with Martin Short, 7 o'clock. Low ticket warning on that one. A lot of these not sold out. One that is sold out, Theater Adult with John Marco Cerezi. He's at the Regent at 7. Again, it's easier to sell out a small theater than, the Hollywood Bowl. Matt Rice at the Comedy Store Main Room at 7. That one is sold out. Just added at the Laugh Factory, Lavelle Crawford. Reese Darby's The Legend Returns is sold out at the Elysian at 7 o'clock. I wonder if the Conchords will stop by that one. They seem to have a night off. Caitlin Palufo at West Side at 8 o'clock. Probably some heat on her coming off the Kevin Hart thing. And a whole bunch of others that I didn't tell you about. It's a pretty busy Thursday at the Netflix Is a Joke Comedy Festival. And oh my goodness, I'm just looking at the raw time here before I make all the edits and clean up the stumbles. I'm at 26 minutes, which is very long for a raw file here. So I'm going to stop talking and see you tomorrow.